everybody. Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is the Schaftlein Report. It's Thursday's edition. It's 2 days post-mortem of the election. Jeffrey, welcome back to the show. Happy to have you with me today.
Well, thanks for getting me out of the psych ward.
Oh, boy, I tell you. Post-mortem day 2. Okay, look, Democrats they're almost rejoicing the fact that they only lost Congress. We don't know if it's going to be 1 seat, 3 seats, 5, or what. It's going to be real tight. And their celebration may have been a little premature because Nevada looks good, Arizona up in question. But Jeffrey, give me your overall impressions about what happened Tuesday night.
You mean the trickle, the red trickle?
The red trickle. It's like a little blood ticking out of your pinky little finger.
Well, I mean, there are a couple of things. I think that when people realize that Trump might run again, I think that they flipped out. I think that's part of it. I think, as we said before, that the abortion issue, and it's not that Republicans should change their opinion of abortion, but they didn't have to start going ban all abortions right now.
Yeah.
They didn't have to make it a bigger issue than it was.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big thing. I mean, actually, all the polls said that, the post-election polls.
We'll get
I think those are the two biggest things. Then it depends by state.
Well, we'll get into the abortion thing a little bit later in the show, but it's really interesting. McCarthy's in line to be the speaker, Steve Scalise, the majority leader, assuming that this projected House majority of 220 to 215 ends up being the number. Republicans are sitting right now at 211. It's interesting because there were 2 states, in my view, that were the superstars for the Republicans. Obviously, Florida. Florida's no longer a purple state. It is a red state. They were using the term, it's as red as Arkansas. I think it's as red as West Virginia or Kentucky right now. But the other superstar state is one you're quite familiar with, and that was New York.
Actually, it was Long Island.
Yeah, it was Long Island. So you live on Long Island. Tell our viewers and listeners, what happened on Long Island, because you and I had talked pre-election about Jeffrey Lee Zeldin, and we thought he had an outside shot, but his influence really helped
campaign really influenced everyone. As a matter of fact, yesterday I called the local paper Newsday.
Yeah.
They lean very left, and I called up the editor and said, you should do something about have a suicide watch for all your editors, because when a Republican wins, you guys have a heart attack or something. And I actually did that.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it had to do with Zeldin's campaigning all through the state and his TV advertising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right.
The very East End, it was Zeldin's old district. The district I'm in was borderline.
Okay.
So, and they went Republican. Actually, the one, 3, but 2 was borderline also, that they've had Republicans and Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
I think 4 was weird that they won, all in Long Island. But it was a big surprise. New York was a big surprise. And if it wasn't for New York City, Zeldin would have won.
Yeah, I think he would have won. So I think, what do we pick up? 3 or 4 seats in the state of New York?
3 total, I think.
3 total, yeah. And we picked up, it's either 3 new seats in the state of Florida. So between New York and Florida, that accounted for 6 seats right there. I
also think that Florida, the reason why Florida did so well is because they have a great governor. I've been saying that for a long time. I like this guy.
A lot of people like this guy, and I'm going to echo what I said yesterday on the show. I think Trump's antics a week before the election, and I hate saying it, but Barack Obama going out and campaigning, driving up the base, the fear-mongering that Biden talked about related to threats to democracy, threats to abortion, threats to voting, which is a complete lie.
I hated myself after a while.
Yeah, I mean, look, one thing that it was crystal clear to me is that, and we're going to go through these numbers, but a lot of the things that Republicans talked about, inflation, well, okay, that was important, but it wasn't as important as a lot of us thought it would be. Crime, it was important in New York, but across the rest of the country, not as much. Border, inexplicably, most people didn't care. I mean, it was like the fourth or fifth issue. And obviously on the Democratic side, the abortion issue was way up there. It was almost like a litmus test.
And the other thing that was way up there is the protecting democracy.
Yeah, and you know what? I hate saying this, but I'm going to give credit for credit's due. Democrats knew their voters. They knew who they were, because we're going to get in. We'll save that for when we get into the numbers. Let's just sort of go through this a little bit here. Let's get back to the Senate for a minute. Georgia's going to have a runoff. Now, the Democratic Party announced they're putting $7 million into Georgia, and on day one of his fundraising effort, Herschel Walker raised $3.5 million. There's going to be a lot of dough spent on this thing. So, Jeffrey, my concern is this. In Georgia, Herschel Walker got 200,000 less votes than the governor of Georgia, Brian Kemp. So that's a tough pill to swallow. That tells me a lot of Republicans and independents, they voted for Kemp. They also voted for Raphael Warnock.
Or they didn't, I heard a lot, left the whole Senate thing blank.
Yeah, was voted for the governor. Yeah, so that's got to be improved upon. Now, most of the time, when you have a runoff election, this did not happen 2 years ago because there was no incumbent, but most of the times an incumbent doesn't win a runoff election. We'll see how this plays itself out.
But also there was an independent.
Yeah, he had 2%.
But if what's his name? If Walker had the 2%, he'd be over 50.
Well, of course, but if Raphael Warnock had the 2, he'd have been over 50 also.
But it was a libertarian.
Yeah, libertarian select. So the question is, will those libertarian candidates even come out to vote in this election? We don't know the answer to that. But one thing
That's what happened last time. They didn't get enough. They didn't get the vote out.
Right. But one thing we do know is that this is a high-profile deal for what we're getting ready to talk about next. Arizona and Nevada are still open. In the Nevada race, Laxalt's up 15,000 with 84% of the vote counted. Laxalt's internal group is telling him he's likely to win. We're not going to know the Nevada results until probably Saturday. The Arizona results we may not know for longer than Saturday. Although
I still don't think we have a chance in Arizona. It's going to go to the Space Cadet.
I don't know if that's true or not, but right now I'm operating under the assumption that I think we're going to win Nevada's race very, very tight. It'll be closer than 15,000 votes. And the reason why is the governor in that the sheriff who opposed the governor, he's winning over 50% of the vote. It's like 50.3. So, and Laxalt, he got similar numbers as the governor, but a little bit below it, like 1,000 votes less than the governor. So, I think at the end of the day, Nevada will have a Republican governor and Adam Laxalt will be in the Senate. So that's going to put us at that 50 Senate seat mark. My tendency is that Arizona will not, but someone who I respect a lot, Jason Chavis, who knows that area extremely well, said, no, based upon where the votes are outstanding, we could close that gap and we still have a shot to win it. I'll leave it as open, but under the assumption we win Nevada and lose Arizona, we'll head into the Georgia election with having 50 seats.
Sure. Gee, where have I heard that before? You've been saying that for months.
I have been saying that for months. Yeah, I'm not trying to tell my own horn. On election night, I predicted we'd have 50 Republican seats the next day with a runoff in Georgia. I did. In my heart of hearts, I was hoping we would win Pennsylvania, but Pennsylvania is brutally tough. I mean, every year we think we're going to do it, and only Trump pulled it off that one year. So I think
that Dr. Oz wasn't a good candidate.
Well, maybe not the best. Dave McCormick would have won. I think McCormick would have won that seat. But here's something we all missed, and let's have our mea culpas here. I still to this day can't conceive how anyone could vote for John Fetterman. But Fetterman, for all his issues, apparently one thing that helped him out was he went and campaigned in red areas. I didn't sort of realize that he was doing that. I thought that there's no way anyone could vote for this guy. But he won by 3. He actually won pretty comfortably. When I stack it up, only, Ron Johnson had a closer race. So, at the end of the day, I thought there would be a 50-seat Senate with Georgia runoff. That's what happened. Then we'll see how it plays out. But one thing that really bugs me, it's bugging you, it's bugging every American, well, not every, but the majority. This counting process in Arizona and Nevada, this is literally nuts. I mean, I sort of get Nevada a little bit because it's all mail-in. Everything is mail-in in Nevada. I sort of get it a little bit.
But didn't they have a problem with the machines for half a day?
That was Arizona.
That was Arizona. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you would think if you have all the votes in, I think in Nevada, you got to be postmarked by Election Day. So maybe it takes a few extra days. In Florida, mail-in ballots have to be in by Election Day. You can't. There's no post-Election Day thing. But in Arizona, the machine's not necessarily working. There's still 600,000 votes to be counted in Arizona, and there's only 2 million people that voted. That's got to be fixed by the time they have the next election. I mean, it's really bad.
You know what else I found interesting? That racist bill that they passed in Georgia.
Yeah, Jim Crow 2.0.
Yeah. The African American vote was up.
Yeah, they had massive turnout in Georgia. That was all a lie. It was to gin up the base, a complete lie. I mean, it just bad. So let's get into what happened here. All right. Democrats captured single women by 30 points. 30 points. And 68% of those voters said abortion was their number one issue. More than inflation. They cast their votes on abortion, and Democrats also won by a big number, the demographic group, 18 to 39. Republicans won married men and women. Republicans won older voters. But, Jeffrey, you can't lose a demographic by 30 points.
Well, but many of those younger voters, they live with their parents. Their parents are the ones worried about inflation.
Yeah. Well, I'm just, again, we can say I had so many Republicans that have reached out to me saying, what are these people thinking? Well, again,
but then you look at it, the married ones are voting Republican. They don't have to, they're not worrying about abortion.
No, but it's not in the greater numbers. Effectively, what you had happen, this is a macro basis here, but one thing that the Democratic Party did more effectively than the Republican Party, they honed their message into their voters. And look, I don't want to make this sound like a defeat because it's not. The Republican Party is likely to, at worst case 50-50 Senate, best case 51-49, and they're going to control the House probably anywhere from 1 vote to 1 to 10. They're going to some small margin, so it's not a disaster. But one thing,
except we were told that the Republicans are going to take over the world.
Well, here's what ended up happening on the voting side. On both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, 96% of Democrats voted for Democrats. Only 4 voted otherwise. Same thing on the Republican side. It was 96-4. So just a complete, both sides. It wasn't 90-10. It was 96-4. Now that 4%, fell. But here's where the difference was. Independent voters who we thought were going to break Republicans, no. 49% of independents voted for Republicans. 49 for Democrat, 47 Republican. That was your difference in the election. And again, not to brag about it, you and I talked about that. We said the independent voters ultimately are going to decide this election. And they did. And the Democratic Party as a whole felt abortion was an issue most important, 76%. Inflation was at 28%.
And the other thing was saving the republic, but they said saving democracy.
Well, I would say the only thing that was an issue relative to saving democracy is the Arizona tabulation machines. I mean, I haven't heard any improprieties about the election anywhere other than Arizona.
But that was before the election.
Yeah.
And I think that the Republicans didn't have a strong enough message. They talked inflation, but they didn't talk what they were going to do with inflation.
Yeah, and look, they hammered in. The other thing is this. Here's another interesting piece, and this is a head scratcher. Republicans won 50 million votes. That was 52.3% of the vote. Democrats won 44 million votes. That was 46.2. That's a generic ballot gap of 6.1%. Remember we talked about the generic ballot before the race? 2.5%. Anytime in the past Republicans had a generic ballot lead, they won. Now, again, we're still going to win, but the margins are going to be so tiny. What this tells me, just in those numbers right there, you had to vote strategically. Because in a lot of races, Republicans ran up the score in Republican districts. But in those, let's call it those 30 swing districts that Republicans in general thought they'd pick up more of them, didn't happen. And
well, it's like the old saying, Democrats don't win elections, Republicans lose elections.
Well, I'll beg to differ with that. I think the Democrats actually won their voters. And they did what they had to do, and look, it can repulse me all I want, but we always say we're going to cut through the propaganda on the show. You got to give them credit where the credit's due. And
sure.
But
I also think that the Republicans screwed up by not having a strong enough message. And I thought inflation was a strong enough message.
So did I.
Obviously, it didn't win over the independents.
Well,
and you and I both know it's really the independents who win elections.
Well, and here's the other thing that showed up. Biden goes into this race with a 40% approval rating. It didn't matter to Democrats. It didn't matter to Democrats and independents by +2. They always say the president's on the ballot. They didn't vote like the president was on the ballot. No way.
Yes, they did.
How? Explain.
They voted like the last president was on the ballot.
Okay, that I'll buy into. Yeah. And going back to your piece about Trump, I'm agreeing with you 100%. I said it on the show yesterday. Donald Trump does not need to be the Republican nominee for president.
I pray he's not.
Yeah, he does not need to be. I hope he's smart enough to see that. Look,
no, he's not.
I'm hoping against hope.
He's very smart, but he's 90% ego.
Yeah, I'm afraid of that too. Look, at the end of the day, did it hurt us on the margins? Yeah, it maybe did. Look, you can say his candidates were bad. Yeah, a couple of his candidates were ridiculous. But a couple of them also won. Carrie Lake looks like she may win Arizona.
Oh, I hope so.
J.D. Vance won Ohio. But Oz lost. Herschel's in the dogfight, literally speaking. Mastriano was a disaster in Pennsylvania. That hurt us too. Having that guy at the top of the ticket in Pennsylvania, forget it. That didn't help at all. All right. So here's the other thing, Jeffrey. The losses that the Democrats suffered were smaller. A lot of these races came down to 1 point or less or 2 points. And one thing the Democrats did, they put money into those districts that they knew were going to be close. And that ended up helping them out because not nearly as many House seats flipped as were estimated.
But some people are saying we screwed up more in the money we did in the Senate, how we handled it.
I've heard some people say that, and I'm going to take exception to that. There were people saying, well, we should have put more money into New Hampshire. Really?
No, we didn't know that was close until the very end.
But, at the end of the day, New Hampshire, Colorado, Washington State, we got blown out by double digits. They weren't even close.
Right, and we shouldn't have put money there. We should have put more money in Georgia, in Arizona, in the ones that were close that we had it.
Arizona, I'll agree with you. Georgia heading for a runoff. That was the second most expensive race in the country. Both candidates were well funded. I don't know. Arizona, I agree with you. And we'll see how close that ends up being. But you know, a lot of people say, well, we spent all this money and we're going to maybe gain one seat. Well, in my opinion, if you end up gaining one seat,
And you control the Senate.
you win. So I don't know. I don't have any critique about how funds were spent. But Democrats, they did put money into races that they had to win. And look, we'll see how it plays out. One takeaway that nobody's talking about, and I think you and I need to tee it up here. Democrats took control of some state legislatures in some very important swing states. Michigan, they got the House, the Michigan State House, the State Senate, and the governor. Minnesota, same thing. Same in Pennsylvania. Now, Minnesota is not necessarily a swing state, but Pennsylvania and Michigan, again, this blue wall that existed prior to when Trump knocked it down, you know, to win the presidency, you got to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. You can't lose all of those states. So, you know, Pennsylvania.
Well, one good thing is that it's the 22 election, not the 28 election,
or the 24,
because they're not doing districts now.
Yeah. That's true. But in those states, Michigan and Pennsylvania, that's going to be an uphill climb. And in Wisconsin, you've got a Republican House and a Republican Senate, but you got a Democratic governor. So
Wisconsin used to be a red state.
It's
now purple.
It's as purple as it gets right now. It's as purple as it gets. And you know, I've heard a couple comments on this, Jeffrey. It almost seems like conservatives are moving out of California, New York, Illinois, to name a few. I could name others, but I'll stop right there. But if you take people moving out of New York, California, Illinois, into red states, that means the red states are getting redder, a la Florida, Tennessee, Idaho, to a degree Texas, but you know, Texas is red, but it's not getting redder, it's not getting bluer, it's staying about the same. But you're seeing a lot of people vacate these blue states. The red are getting redder, the blue are getting bluer, and the number of competitive purple states is shrinking.
I can see it in New York, how people move into Florida.
Yeah.
And part of the reason, I probably told you this before, but there's state law. If you're over 65 and Jewish, they make you move to Florida.
Palm Beach County. Well, I mean, there's some, listen, which, by the way, Palm Beach County went for DeSantis. That was a little bit of a
that was a nice change.
Yeah, it was people talk about Dade County, you know, Palm Beach County shifted too. I can't remember the last time a Republican won Palm Beach County. So anyhow, I know one segment you wanted to talk about, and it's your favorite piece. So I'm going to tee it up to you. How about the two darlings of the Democratic Party, Jeffrey? Your thoughts on the magnificent Robert Francis O'Rourke and Stacey Abrams. How do you feel about those two?
Well, I called them the winners of the Harold Strassen Awards. Now, if you don't remember, he ran for president 10 times and lost 10 times. Okay, and the only thing that stopped him is he died, or he'd still be running. Right. Well, you look at Beto, he keeps running for state office and losing.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if it was me, I'd be embarrassed to walk out of the house. The only thing he's given to the country in the last couple of years is reminding us to go to the dentist.
Yeah, that was bad.
That's it.
You know, he lost to Ted Cruz by 3. He lost to Greg Abbott by about 7.5. So he's actually going backwards.
You know, Stacey Abrams, I think she's a racist. And I'm not talking about, I think she's an anti-black racist.
She pounded Democratic men, basically.
Right. She said that black men were stupid, basically. They were too lazy to find out what the real story is.
Yeah, that's what she said. That's what she implied, basically. Look,
well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, she lost by 9 points. Look, a lot of people, for as bad as she lost, a lot of people in Georgia give her credit for helping turn the state purple. So, I mean, that's their prerogative. But as a candidate, those two, hopefully we don't see them in any national race.
Well, yeah, but there was also an all-time record breaker.
In turnout, there was.
Oh, no. In Florida, do you know that Charlie Crist is the first person ever to lose 3 state elections for 3 different parties? He lost as a Democrat, he lost as a Republican, and he lost as an independent.
And most people don't know, but he's a former governor.
Yeah. And the last 2 times he ran for governor again. But and this time he lost by 20 points. And the political world, 20 points is a landslide.
You know, I want to be a little cautious about when everyone is making Ron DeSantis the greatest ever. Charlie Crist was a very weak opponent. But
I know.
But Marco Rubio beat Val Demings by, he won by 17 points. DeSantis won by 19 and change. Val Demings was a credible candidate. I mean, she was the former sheriff in Orlando, a congresswoman. She wasn't some wild leftist. She was a left-wing Democrat, but not a crazy Democrat. And,
wasn't she a squad member?
No, she was not.
I think it's someone else.
No, and again, Rubio beat her by 17 points. So
Rubio is a good senator, and he's a good campaigner.
Excellent, and that's why again he won. But boy, Florida has really, he's really.
That's one of my favorite things about Charlie Crist. He left the Republican Party because he said they were racist. He left it after Marco Rubio won the Senate election against him.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And a Hispanic won the election, and he was running against a white left Methodist. There's nothing wrong with them, but minority versus white bread.
Yeah.
But the party's racist.
Yeah. Well, let me shift from politics, and we're going to come back to it at the end of the show. Couple economic news. Big economic news today, Jeffrey. Inflation, CPI came in at 7.7, a little less than expected. 0.3 was the core, down from in the mid-8s. Wall Street's going absolutely bonkers today. At one point, the Dow was up 1,000 points. The things that caused inflation to come down a little bit, medical services, that shocked me. Used cars, apparel, energy services, those were the things that led the decline. Jeffrey, 7.7 inflation is still really high, but certain prices across the country, for like rents, home prices, certain retails are going down. But
wait 2 months.
Yeah, 1 month is definitely, but Wall Street's going crazy on it. And the other thing, big economic news out there, it hasn't really hit mainstream yet, but this crypto firm FTX based down in the Bahamas, that was one of the main clearing firms, particularly on their international business, it looks like there's potential malfeasance there, commingling of customer funds, people can't get their money out. The value of that company has lost 95% or 90%, and it looks like it may end up in bankruptcy court. Jeffrey, that could be a big stain on the crypto business. So,
yeah, I mean, every young person I talk to, are you into crypto? They said, no, I prefer ice cream.
Yeah, that's bad. Yeah, so
but I think the real problem, at least for the average American, is that we're running out of heating oil. I mean, not just the price increase, which is going to be up like 65% from what I've heard, but we're running out of the stuff. So there are some people that won't even be able to get enough heating oil. And the same thing with diesel. And that's how we get food from one side of the country to the other.
Yeah, well,
that's a problem.
If Democrats didn't think inflation was a problem before, maybe when they can't heat their house or they're having trouble getting goods to market, maybe they'll rethink that. But, the economic issues of this country have not been solved. And look, one thing that I hope happens, assuming we take the House, is that things get back to a little more stable position here economically. I hope these prices continue coming down, but I don't know. You got to see another couple months before that happens. And then we got good news out of Ukraine, where the Russians are apparently pulling their troops out of Kherson in the southern part of the country. Milley got up, and General Milley, who's the top military brass in the country, basically made reference to both the Russians and the Ukrainians have each lost and wounded over 100,000 people. So
Is that the same Milley who
that's,
designed the Afghan withdrawal
yeah, unfortunately, yes.
and then lied about it?
Yeah, that's Melly. Same.
Yeah, I trust him.
Yeah, right. Okay, listen. We've gone through the politics. We've talked about the election. Let's look forward now. Okay. Yeah, our predictions were pretty close on what happened. Slightly over optimistic in the House, but we nailed the Senate. So now, 2022, the counting goes on. We'll know the results in about a week. But let's look ahead to 2024. Okay. Biden said yesterday that he plans to run in 2024. They say he's going to make a decision, he said, between Christmas and Thanksgiving, sort of getting it backwards. It's Thanksgiving to Christmas, but sometime there, and would announce it in the early part of 2023.
But that's between Christmas and next Thanksgiving.
Yeah, could be. Is Biden going to run again, knowing he would be, 81 years old if he were?
He doesn't care about that.
No, he didn't care at all. I agree with you.
But the fact that it wasn't as bad as everybody thought. I mean, the Democrats were saying it's going to be disaster.
A lot of them did. They thought
that he's going to run again. And, if Trump, God forbid, runs again, he's going to say, well, I beat Trump last time.
The sad fact of the matter is, I hate to say this, but if it turns out to be Biden and Trump, Biden will beat him again.
Right. The thing is, though, Biden also said he's not changing any of his policies.
Right. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. I think Trump's policies were wonderful.
Oh, I agree with you. But the problem with Trump, again, in a presidential election, this is where I was getting to earlier. You're going to have to win some of the following states: Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin is the blue wall. You got to win one of those states to become president. You cannot lose Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin the way the map is currently construed and be elected president. There's not a snowball's chance in hell Trump's going to win Pennsylvania.
People don't want chaos anymore.
No, they don't. And based upon how Michigan ended up going, I cannot see him winning Michigan. And Wisconsin, Ron Johnson just eked out a win by 1 point over a candidate who was Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, who had radical views. Think about this. A guy in Wisconsin, Lieutenant Governor, young guy, attractive candidate, lost by 1 point with radical views. John Fetterman, who has about the same type of radical views, won by 3 points in Pennsylvania. So you think...
And if you saw the debate, you're saying...
How in the hell...
medically, and I'm not making fun of him, but medically, he can't really speak.
Right.
And the Senate is a debate house.
You thought it was a debate house. It doesn't matter. As long as they vote, they can vote however it does. It doesn't matter. But my point is this, looking ahead to 2024, again, we don't know what the issues are going to be then. Hopefully, Republicans learn their lesson and they don't ever utter the word abortion again. Oh, my God, get that off the lexicon. But, again, looking forward at these candidates, Republican Party needs to nominate someone who can win. We mentioned Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. Those are 6 states that they're the swing states. Is there any doubt? I mean, let's just tick off a couple. California, Washington, Oregon, Illinois, the entire Northeast, it's going to go Democrat. Texas, Florida, Ohio, most of the South, the Midwest, it's going to go Republican. The election's going to be about those states I just mentioned.
Yep.
Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. Am I leaving anything out that could be competitive?
No, but we talk about how Trump...
Virginia, maybe Virginia.
We talk about how he turned some blue states into red states. He turned Georgia into a blue state. Arizona into a blue state.
Yeah.
And it's not his policies. It's that people don't like meanness,
Right.
especially from the president.
Yep. Yeah. So it's a big deal. So I'm sitting here saying, listen, whoever the Republican Party nominates, and here's the difficulty. And I've seen it over decades. If Joe Biden decides to run, nobody's going to run against him. They can employ the Rose Garden strategy. He's not going to have to go out and campaign. Now, again, depending on things are 2 years from now, we don't know. But he would employ that strategy. No one's going to oppose him. And on our side, while he's doing a Rose Garden strategy, we potentially could have candidates beating up on each other, which isn't good.
If Trump runs, I think there'll only be one other candidate, DeSantis. I don't think anyone else would run. But either way, we're going to have a circular firing squad.
I'll give you a name of a couple people that could consider running. Mike Pompeo. Mike Pompeo has thought about running. He'd be an excellent candidate. Could he win? I don't know. Mike Pence. Mike Pence is seriously thinking.
I know Mike Pence is, and I think Mike Pence wants to run. I don't know if he can run. If he can,
yeah.
Especially like you look at what a big influence abortion was this time.
Oh God, I'm with you. I'm with you.
And I happen to like Mike Pence.
I do too, but I'm with you. I'm with you 1,000%. No, that's not going to work. I'll tell you a name that's not many people are talking about, but could run. Glenn Youngkin, governor of Virginia. Maybe, we'll see. I'll tell you another name that people laugh about. Larry Hogan, that was the governor of Maryland. Larry Hogan won in a deep blue state. He was governor twice. He's got good policies generally, but I'm just telling. When we think about who we're going to nominate, again, I'm not. Look, I love Ron DeSantis. He's governor of my home state.
Right.
Okay. If he runs, I'm supporting him 100% if he runs. But I don't know if he's going to. I know he's getting a lot of pressure to run.
He's going to.
Well, if he
trust.
Well,
I'll put money on that one.
I wouldn't doubt it either. But I'm telling you, we're going to have. Trump's not going to scare anybody off. Is my point. Of all the potential candidates out there, the only one who said he's not running is Tom Cotton. So, we'll see. But anyhow, we got a minute left.
Well, the good thing about Hogan is that people who will work for him are all heroes. That's why they call him Hogan's Heroes.
One of my favorite all-time shows.
All
right, we got a minute.
I know nothing.
We got a minute left. All right, final comments, Jeffrey, on the 2022, because we're going to start looking ahead next week.
They got to start. They got to have a good post-analysis of this election. Yes, they might win the House, and they might win the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
House, I definitely think they will.
Yeah.
Senate, no. But they have to look at what went wrong this time, because it should have been a red wave. But what turned the red wave into
a red trickle?
A red trickle.
My pinky's got a little thing. Oh my God!
Right. I'm diabetic. I have to take my blood every day. I take more blood than they let out.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, they have to start talking to Trump and saying, "We love you, but go away."
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. I like Trump a lot.
Is that I think how they used to say he used to run against the establishment. He's become the establishment.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm going to echo what you said there. I'm going to add a piece to it. I don't want to be too down on Republicans. I'll tell you why. In the last election in 2020, we picked up, 14, 15, 16 House seats? We're going to pick up about 10 this time. It looks that way. If you had said before this election, go back 3 months ago, that by the time all the votes are counted, Republicans will either be 50-50 in the Senate or 51-49 leading. Most people, given all the seats that Republicans had to defend, would say, I'll take that. And if you said...
And next time it's a
different map, and I'll tell you, different map. But if you also said, well, we're going to end up controlling the House, but it's going to be a really skinny margin, I think most people have said, okay, we control the House, +1 or even in the Senate. We stop the horrific spending bills. Most people would have probably said, okay, we'll take it. Well, that may end up what we end up with here. But we have to, I'll tell you, my closing comment is this, 2 points. I don't want President Trump to run again for the exact reasons you stated. And I want us to forget the word abortion ever existed, because that thing went down in like 4 different states. They had proposals on it. Let the, Supreme Court's made a decision. States are going to decide. We don't want any more bills on abortion. And again, I think that if we focus our message and produce a winning message about what people want, then again, Republicans have the right ideas. So,
well, if you remember when it made this statement, I asked if I could kick Lindsey Graham, because he was the one who started it. When he says, I want to come out with a bill that bans inflation.
No. We don't want, put that in the trash can. We don't want anything to do with that. That's terrible.
That's why I want to kick him.
All right. Well, look, Jeffrey, next Thursday, we're going to be back. Hopefully by next Thursday, we have all the votes counted. But if I handicapped it here, I would say, no, we won't have all the votes counted. Will we know?
Well, I can guarantee you one thing. The Jets aren't going to lose this week. It's a bye week.
Right, exactly. All right, that's it. Jeff, thanks for joining me today. Always enjoyed what we talked about the entire election season. Folks, keep your hopes up. Things are they're never as bad as they seem. They're never as good as they seem. We're going to move forward as a country. And
start thinking about tomorrow, not yesterday.
That's it, exactly. Thanks for sticking with us. We will be back on Monday. Have a great weekend. We'll see you then.